Yeah, I didn't say
It says it on my screen though. It says this meeting is being recorded in the upper left.
that. Yes.
Yeah, you can get it.
All right.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock, so I'd like to call the meeting to order and we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we can proceed with roll call. Lois?
Slopsma,
Here.
Jacobson,
Here.
DeYoung,
Here.
Robel,
Here.
Keaton,
Here.
Peltonen, here, Vamos. Here.
Okay, so, want to review and see if anybody has any adjustments to the agenda today. Okay, I see no adjustments to the agenda, so we'll proceed as written. Any declaration of conflict of interest from any of the planning commission members? Okay, I see no raised hands on conflict of interest. So now we'll have public comment. Any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the PC. Public comments shall be carried out in accordance with the following rules. Comments shall be directed to the PC with questions to the chair. Any person wishing to address the PC shall speak from the lectern or raise your hand on Zoom and state your name and address. Persons may address the PC on matters that are relevant to the township planning and zoning issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding the time needed to answer a PC member's question, and public comment is limited to 3 minutes. So do we have any public comment in the hall? Okay. Rod?
Well, hello, everybody.
Well, hello.
Rod Rebant, 648 Island View Drive.
Howdy, neighbor.
It's kind of nice to be back.
Really?
I like it over there.
Okay.
This you was never my thing. But anyway, I had lunch with Randy last week. And Randy updated me with a lot of really good information, and all I can say is bravo. I mean, this group took a really big task, in fact, 2 of them, and ran them through the process. And I don't think I've ever been as moved by some project or projects in Whitewater Township as what all of you have been doing. I've been coming to these meetings, I'll say faithfully, kind of, since 2005. I've been up here, I've been at the lectern complaining, pleading, and also offering support where I thought it was appropriate. And rarely did I find myself thanking people for doing one hell of a job. And I've had the chance to read your packet and the draft of the master plan, and it is solid. I couldn't have imagined anything better. So you guys, thank you. And I think this is the start of some really big things. From a historic perspective, I go back enough years to know that the PC struggled with so many things. And part of it was motivation, part of it was leadership, and part of it was directions from the board or lack thereof. And I think when I stepped in here early, I guess it was late December 2022, I kind of felt all of those things because I was the new kid on the block, but things like organization, things like people stepping up to the plate, research, commitment, all of those are things that just, it was a struggle to see it anywhere in this township. It was here, it is here. And, keep doing what you're doing. One of the things I did tell Randy I would do is provide some feedback as to what I saw and where I think there may still be some issues, but I don't think this group has problems with issues. You guys are problem solvers, so and you're probably already well aware of it. And I haven't been in any of the detailed discussions, nor have I been online watching and cheering you on, but today's the day. Looking at the timeline that was published, that was as close to original as I remember, and it probably came out, I think we were working on it with the ROS and the PC. Into the master plan issues in about March. And things really started moving. And almost by the month, you guys stayed really close to the plan. Where there was deviation, it was because of vacations or it was, some issue, something that was probably resource driven, or we didn't have people like Leah or others, trying to even remember the name of the other group, Networks Northwest, yeah, having them produce documents for us or resources to do tabulation for us. We struggled there. But other than that, you were crisp, you executed. The other thing that I was very impressed with, and it is not something that I've ever seen in this township, and that is bringing in the resident outreach subcommittee. From what I've seen in other townships, that is a successful marriage with the township resources. It doesn't have to just be the PC. You have found people, you have found contacts through your workshop that I think those people, several of them, will probably be willing participants should you have other struggles. So I would just say, keep those people in mind. They're great resources. They can fill holes and they have unbridled enthusiasm. And there's one of them here that I just have to mention, Denise. And another person I'm going to mention, and I do want to say it's missing on the first page or second page, and it's the people that worked on this project. And I saw Lois McLean almost every day working on some phase of this. And I absolutely feel, she was part of a lot of the things that made this project successful. I would ask that you put her on here. And I think Bob, as our not assessor, but zoning administrator. He came in and he answered a number of questions for us. We didn't involve him in too many of the discussions, but I think for completeness sake, he was a guy who sat here in this room and told us what he thought and shared his concerns and his issues. So that'd be another one that I think would truly complete the resource pool that we were drawing on. I'm not going to pick at any of the detail in here. I've had a couple friends read this and they they were surprised at the completeness of Whitewater Township history, the demographics, and where the people are that exist today in the various demographics, ages, salaries, lifestyles, where they live in terms of farming, waterfront property, all of that. It really seems complete, and it's a great story. And I think everybody should be reminded where we came from and where we're going. Some of the pictures in here, some of the brief descriptions of why we need to be thinking about the future is exciting. Some of the people came back and said, wow, I mean, you think you could actually do something with the village of Williamsburg? I mean, yes, you can. You absolutely can. And all of the other things that have been problems for us, and I'll say lawsuits, the arguments, the misinformation, the access to data, all of that, I see the day is coming, and it's fairly soon, when you're going to have all of the tools available to you. If, everybody stays on point, I think the PC is going to benefit. But by far, this is the best group I've ever seen in this hall. And I thank you for that. As far as areas that I am concerned about, I'll just mention them. And I think they're good opportunities for some of the resident outreach folks perhaps participating. In their ones, they are summary of community goals. It's page 84, if you want to go to that. And it's all of the things that this group and the board has committed to as resources that need to work on some component of a master plan or of further developing or replacing, some of the zoning issues or documents. The first one is in principle 1, it's 1E, and it's the elimination of junk and blight conditions in Whitewater Township. That's historically, that issue's been there for a very long time. I think drawing the community into that discussion would really be helpful. It's a good starting place. I see you have an ambitious goal of 1 to 2 years. I think it's doable, but it's one that I think there's a little dogfight in there. There's going to be a little nipping at your tail by some folks, but it's worth it because this township deserves better. 1F, address short-term rentals in a way that is consistent with public opinion. I live on a lake. People on the lake are worried about what short-term rentals can do as far as upsetting their world. There's other places that also have those concerns. If I was, maybe out in a 5-acre lot all by myself, half a mile away in STR, may not bother me, but when you're cramped in as a lakefront property owner and short-term rentals come in, that's an issue. I think that one really needs to be fleshed out. Island Lake, we're physically 2 townships, Union Township and Whitewater Township. There are 3 and soon to be 4, as soon as you lift the moratorium, STRs. 3 of them have already been in place and people are talking about more. We have 100 lots, 100 properties on the lake. So, I'm sure that issue exists out in other places along Skegamog or Elk Lake also. So 3 different views of that one. I was really glad to see Under principle 2, pursue farmland preservation, it's 2D. In working with the Traverse Regional Land Conservancy. That's excellent. 2E, readopt private road ordinance. Our island lake community is going through that issue right now is, what are the standards? How do you divvy up the cost? What do we have to do to bring it up to standards? So, that's one that I see is in multiple areas within the township. And lastly is principle 3B, review permitted uses, special uses, and development standards in the V Village zoning district.
In the what district? I'm sorry.
The V Village zoning district. So I think they're saying specifically Williamsburg. What can be done there short term? How do you market that to the community as, is this a viable solution? Today, I think most people say no. So that's all I had. Just, you guys made me really happy. It was a pleasure working with you. And if you ever need a question answered, I'm willing to do that.
We're casting right now.
I walked away from a lot of things and I needed it, so. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Rob.
you.
Okay, do we have anybody on Zoom that would like to make a public comment? You have to raise your hand online. Okay, I see nothing there, so we will proceed. Okay, reports, presentations, announcements, comments. First, we have zoning administrator Deb Graber. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yep, I missed the minutes. Sorry for that. I slipped past that. So you have in your packet the minutes from April 3. So looking for any comments regarding corrections or a motion to approve.
I have a correction.
Speaking in my.
On the minutes, it was just a typo. My last name was spelled wrong under one of the election of officers. Trying to think where it is now. Motion by. So in there, it's not a big thing, but in one of the roll calls, my name. Oh, yeah, motion by just near the very end of page 4, under continuing education, motion by Jacobson, second by DeYoung to adjourn. And Pelton is spelled incorrectly, just add another EN on that.
Okay. Any other comments that anybody has? All right, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes with that correction?
I make the motion to approve the minutes. With the. Oh, sure. Point it out.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right. Approved. Okay. Sorry about that. I got messed up on my agenda here. Correspondence. I do not have any correspondence. I wanted to just make mention of, if any of you receive any correspondence, please. Okay, the point is, when we're putting together the agenda, I always try and do this right about 10 to 14 days ahead of the meeting. So, make sure that if you have anything, you forward it to me, correspondence for the packet, and I know I called Al this past month and just clarified whether there was something, for the packet or not. And it was kind of secondhand information. And so I clarified that with him, but please make sure you forward that. I think it's a little odd that we have so little correspondence. I know in the past, there's been a lot of correspondence to the PC. Okay. Moving on now, Deb. It's time for Deb, our new zoning administrator. I think she's got a whole bunch of stuff for us.
Well, I did realign the zoning report. I don't know if anyone had a chance to take a look at it. I basically just put it into sections, so all the land use permits are in one section. The land divisions are in one section, the special uses are in one section, and ZBA appeals are in one section. It keeps my numbering a little easier to make sure none of them get missed. Linda asked me to do a little training tonight on special use permits and when and how and what the process is with a special use permit. I have two on my desk right now that you're going to be seeing very soon. One is in an ag district. So when a special use comes into the zoning department, people call and say, hey, I've got this piece of property. This is what I want to do. And so there's kind of a process. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through and give you some information. I handed out a package to everyone. Basically, I get an application, a site plan, the documentation. I go out and I look at every site. I walk them. I want to see it staked if they're going to be adding things to it. In a special land use case number gets assigned once I get all the documentation. No application's complete until they pay their bill. So taxes have to be paid and the permit fees have to be paid. So once I prepare that package, it's going to get distributed to the planning commissioners. And then we will set a hearing date, either a special hearing, and it usually takes, it's got to be noticed 15 days prior to the meeting. I think working with the clerk, getting it in the newspaper, I think it gets put in the Grand Traverse paper. Usually it's about 20 days just to make sure it hits the deadlines of the property. So once the hearing date's scheduled, everything's been published. Public hearing starts. The chair of the planning commission will open the public hearing during a meeting. The applicant will have an opportunity to share their thoughts, tell their story, what they want to do with the project. The public will also have an opportunity to speak up and share their thoughts. The hearing gets closed, and then the planning commission deliberates on that special use. So what I've attached for you are a couple things. One is, if I go to the zoning ordinance and I go to section Article 25.12, special uses and site plan reviews are all one section. And in section 25.12, so you go to that, it says standards for decisions. And this is the set of standards that is currently in the ordinance for both special use and for site plan reviews.
Hey, Deb, so we've got a bunch of handouts and we've
Okay.
got our packet. So which one are you reading off of?
I tried to conserve paper, guys, because there's a lot of information out here.
Yeah,
So,
It's the second page.
okay,
yeah.
okay.
So
Gotcha.
I don't know how familiar you guys are with your zoning ordinances, but I'm learning them. But if I go to the standards for decisions for a special use, you've got A through R that have to be answered. And they're a little bit more site plan related. But on the very front page of the second handout I gave you, it says review standards. It's a quick reference sheet. And this is coming out of the special land use standards that's published by the MTA, Michigan Township Planning and Zoning Decision Making. And truly, these A through F are truly what you should be considering in a special use situation, but it's not what's in your zoning ordinance. So I'm going to kind of cover both of them, because when you're looking at a special land use, and I'm going off the quick reference sheet, review standards, special land uses, the proposed use. So when you go out and you look at, okay, I've got a farmer who wants to do something in an accessory structure, or they want to start a little small business on their property. So does the proposed use comply with the general objectives and land use policies contained in the master plan? Which ties right into what you guys have been working on for months, preparing your master plan and why it's so important for your ordinances to support your master plan. The proposed use shall be designed, constructed, operated, maintained in a manner that's harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing character of the general vicinity. So does this, whatever special use somebody wants to do on their property, does it fit with the community? Is it going to stand out, or is it going to kind of blend in, or are they even going to know it's there? You know, is the proposed use served by necessary public facilities, meaning, you know, wastewater, which we don't have an issue with here. But you know, is it going to put extra wear and tear on the streets? And that's just one more thing for you guys to consider when you're looking at a special use. Is the proposed use not hazardous or disturbing to a neighbor? Is it going to cause any conflict to the existing use and quiet enjoyment of the surrounding properties? Does the proposed use not involve activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any person, property, or the general welfare because of excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, odors? And it gives a little bit more detail on each of these. And then does the proposed use shall be consistent with the intent and purpose of this ordinance? So when I get a special use request, I look at what district are they in? And then based on that, I go to the ordinance and I say, okay, this one's an ag. So from ag, it says, well, you can have a special use, and this type of special use, you got to go and look at R2, because if you can do it in R2, you can do it in ag. So I go from ag to R2, and then particular one that you're going to see in a month or so or soon. I had to go to, is it a major or a minor occupation at a home occupation situation? So drilling down to that level, and then these concerns come into play. The way your ordinance is written, so it might be something you want to take into consideration. I've kind of talked to Randy a little bit futuristically, that maybe separating site plan reviews from a special use review could be separate sections in your zoning ordinance. But the way your ordinances are read, every site plan, you know, all elements of the site plan, are they harmonious? The landscape preserved in its natural state? You know, is attention given to site drainage? Some of these are going to just be NA, 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 NA. But I wanted you guys to have an opportunity to see what do your ordinances say versus what a special use really kind of the key factors are that go into it. Obviously, we're going to follow what the ordinance says, but I would like to kind of include that as we look at any future special use permits. The other document that's out there is this nice little document that comes from Michigan State University. And all it is a checklist for processing a zoning special use permit. And it just kind of walks you through a checklist from start to finish. It's just kind of for informational purposes, but it comes down to basically I think it starts, kind of your process starts at page 5. But it kind of gives you something to follow as you're going through the process. So once somebody comes in and you go through and you deliberate and you evaluate all these different options, and you've got quite a list to go through, you might be able to condense it a little bit. And then, but then once the planning commission deliberates, you know, you look at the proposed special use, you evaluate it against the standards in the ordinance, and during your deliberation, you determine, you know, does it meet the standard? Is it something we can approve? Is it something we can approve with conditions put on them? Like limiting hours or transportation, or maybe they have to add a driveway or cut down a tree or add a tree, or, you know, add more trees or whatever. Or are there conditions which can then be imposed on the special use that would be subject to meeting that would assist them in meeting that standard? So, and yeah, there's always the option of denying the request. So basically, all I wanted to do was kind of walk you through the process and Because we do have a couple of these coming up, and based on what I saw on my desk today, we might have a couple more coming our way too in the future. So does anyone have any
I
questions?
had one question. I
Sure.
was looking it says special land use, and in parentheses is 10,000 square foot plus. So obviously they don't know what size building it's going to be. The plus, it could be 20,000. I mean, the plus, it needs something a little closer.
If it's anything over 10,000 square feet, it's required to go through the planning commission.
Mhm.
If it's under and it's an existing building, it may be something the zoning administrator
Yeah.
would make a decision on, but that particular building is going to be 10,640 square feet.
Yeah, so that'd be a little more specific
Yeah.
to what size the building's going to be, because that's going to help in your decision making.
Oh, absolutely. And when you get your packet, it's all the details are going to be in front of you along with the drawings. And I'll try to provide as much information in the package as well, along with copies of the zoning ordinance. I know the zoning ordinances that are online, a lot of them say draft on them.
Mhm.
And those are the ones I'm making decisions off of. So those are the ones I'm including.
Mhm.
So hopefully I have the most up-to-date information. You guys can all help me with that, but ultimately it's a village decision. It's not mine. So I will probably overshare with data and information with you. But I think I think there was only one on the docket all of last year for a special use. And I've got two that are going to be coming your way in the next day. And so, anyway, any other questions?
So one comment about the proper zoning ordinance, I believe that was contained in both the March packet and the April packet. And that was just kind of provided for our reference because we knew that these, especially the larger project was coming our way. So you're welcome to look at those packets online. I think Rachel went to quite a bit of work originally to talk to Cheryl Goss and make sure she had the latest
Okay,
copies.
okay.
Am I remembering that right correctly?
I think so. Mhm.
And I think you did work on it too, Al. So that's out there. I don't recall right off the top of my head.
And that's where I'm pulling it down from, but I do have a binder. It's
Yeah.
real thick, and I do make comparisons as well, but my binder doesn't have draft stamped all over. It's a lot easier to read. So some of them I pulled them out, and some of them I found amendments in my binder, so I pulled those and made those copies, so. But we'll get through it. It'll be fine. Any other questions?
I'd like to thank you for the providing, I don't think this has typically been provided, the sheet to the planning commission. I think it's helpful for all of us to just know what's going on, like what kind of activity is coming across the zoning administrator's desk, because I think that kind of tells us too, like, if there's cleanup needed on any of these sections of the zoning ordinance, it's nice to know what's being used. Or what questions are being asked as far as, you've got a description of, looks like lots of accessory buildings here. And some
Yes.
of them are really big.
Yes. Well, and some are very small, and I'm not seeing a lot of small ones on there, but the zoning ordinance does state if it's less than 120 square feet, it should be permitted,
Without.
not allowed, permitted, but no charge, permitted. That's something I would love to get clarification on. Every township's a little different. Some it's a 200 square foot building or less, no big deal. Here it's 120, but it's got to be permitted, no charge. So at what size is too small? Or doesn't need to be permitted? Somebody puts a mailbox in, does that need to be permitted? I'm hoping not. Or a library box, or because it's a structure, or defining a structure. I've got lots of questions about that stuff, but we don't need to go there now. Any more questions for me?
Just have a quick one. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, if you have questions for us, if you could send them to us, because that would be something that we would have to take into consideration when we're updating our zoning.
Yeah, I'm giving a list to Randy.
Oh, you have,
Basically.
okay.
Just to incorporate them in, this is highlights. Cause I've got lots of little notes about the zoning ordinance. Just I mean, I'm making an interpretation of what the ordinance and how it reads. So it's my interpretation. And if I have questions about it, you know, I can go to the zoning board of appeals and ask them as well for clarification. But I know that you guys worked really hard on your master plan, and I know that there's a lot of work going on with it. So I'm not trying to add more waves to it. I'm just making sure we're all on the same page and we're reviewing based on the same information. So, and if I miss something, let me know. You know, I'm human, so. Any other questions?
One other question.
Yep.
So your zoning report has dates here, but does this mean that the permit was granted or?
Yes, I didn't
I-
find any denied. I didn't find any denied permits.
But I guess on the special use permit, for example, that's when it was filed.
That was when it was filed. Those were Bob's dates that they
Oh,
came
okay,
in.
So that's his information? from-
Yes, yes. Yeah, that was in March and January. I have not, yeah, I can't. He assigned numbers to those. I don't normally put a number on until, I mean, the project out here on M72 did not get staked until last week, so I don't normally give out a permit until the property's staked and I go and walk it and take photos, but
I'm surprised a permit is issued before it's approved.
it's not been issued for those special uses
Okay,
there.
so it's just a number assigned.
Just a number that's been assigned. Yeah, I should probably take that date off of it. It's when he sent his information in, and
Yeah, it's just a little, yeah, I
Yep.
can see why
So-
people would question that.
So
Yeah.
it's a
I can-
permit number.
I can remove it. Yeah, I didn't want to,
It'd be nice to have an application date so you know how.
I
current it
didn't
is.
stop what had already been started with
Mhm.
my predecessor. I just tried to pick up where
Yeah.
he left off and move forward, so.
Yeah.
Like I have one on here that doesn't have a date on it. I've got a number, but I was just waiting for him to tell me the property was staked. I had everything. It's just until I issue it, I don't put the date in.
So is the special use permits that are on here, are those already approved or are they just?
They have not, neither one of them,
Okay,
but they've been in here that long.
okay.
So I'm not sure why you hadn't seen the one for West Wind, but it's that one's a pretty big project. And like I said, the property wasn't even staked until last week, so I wasn't in a big hurry to get it before you guys if they hadn't gotten with a surveyor to stake it. So we knew where the corners were and where the building was going up, where the parking lot was going to be going, retention pond. There's a lot of stuff going on that project. So, but I do have it ready, and that client would really like to have a special meeting. So if that's something that you guys are open to, that particular developer would really like to get before you.
One other point about that is that we discussed and have talked to the planning commission before about the fact that the hearings that get done after property owners are notified, you do not have to make a decision that night. So you
But-
can if you want,
But
but
you're expected to do your site review and everything prior
Yes.
to the meeting. So,
if questions come up and you're not sure.
so I think the question you're asking us, Deb, is scheduling of these two that you have under the blue section here. So the West Wind Construction and Development, and then Scott Trumbull. So there's two special use permits for our review. And you've got, the petitioner has given you everything.
I've gotten all the information, yes.
Okay,
Scott Trumbull's was a little bit simpler, so I've got all of his information prepped and I can actually hand it out tomorrow morning. But tomorrow I'll be here all day, so I plan to finalize everything with the other project as well, so you could get them both tomorrow.
so we had talked to Bob about this, I think it was back in early March. About, you have to choose a date to do it in conjunction with us. You have to notice it. And I know one thing that I had tried to stress to Bob is that if you're ready to notice it, the whole package should be ready. So all the documentation from the applicant plus your report should be complete. And so I guess I would just reiterate that, at least speaking for myself, my expectation is if it's ready to notice, it's ready to give 100% of the information to both the public and to the PC. I don't want trailing documents eating up 15 days. So,
I don't either. And when I
Okay,
put a
good.
package out to all of you, that package will be, the hearing notice gets put in the box out front. It gets put on the website, it gets noticed to the neighbors, and any of the public can come in and see the same package that all of you get.
right.
So I've made the copies. I worked on the copies today to finalize that. And if you guys are, if you give me a date, I will get a notice for those two projects to be sent over to the clerk to get them in the paper.
So
So,
our next regularly scheduled meeting is on, I think it's June 5.
I believe it is Wednesday, June
It
5.
was June 5. So I think the question in front of the PC board is, do we just schedule these into June 5? That would give you approximately 1 month to do 2 site plan reviews, which I think is pretty significant. And smarten up on everything. Go ahead.
My thought is we have a hard enough time just getting through a meeting. And if you don't throw that in up, then we're not gonna get done, we need to in our meetings. I would like to almost see us have a special meeting just for these two. You know, if we're gonna have two special use.
2 hours, it could be
Yeah.
an hour presentation, you don't know. You have to give, I mean, when they go to the podium, it's not like you say, okay, sir, you have 10 minutes, go.
That sounds like a
Point
good
is, I'd
idea.
like to see us do it on a day that's not a regular meeting.
But how much time do you think, I'm sorry. How much time do you think everybody needs to go over all the homework? Is basically what I'm saying. So, I mean, okay, Deb, maybe you can answer this question. How many pieces of paperwork is in one of your packets?
Well, I will tell you, the retail business that's going in across from the casino, that will be a site plan review and a special use. That is not just a special use. That is a building going in, they're gonna bring in fill, they are gonna put in a retention pond, they're putting in a parking lot, you're gonna have lighting, you're gonna have landscaping, MDOT's approved everything. They're just waiting for the finals. Once they get everything situated. This is a developer that's done this particular project a number of times, and so they're pretty on track with this, and they really want to keep the ball rolling on it. The other project,
I'm asking how many.
that one,
pages,
there's some pages to it because
Like, are they looking at, I'm just trying to give these guys an idea.
there's
How long would it take?
there's a blueprint for lighting, there's a blueprint for
50,
topo there.
And maybe a
60?
No, there's probably 35.
Linda, what would you think about having the special meetings if everybody has their stuff a week before the June meeting? If everybody could make that.
Are you thinking for both projects?
I think we could do both. If we had the information, that gives us plenty of time, I would think, to look at it.
It's 3 weeks.
Mhm.
It's just barely your 20 days you were talking about for
Yeah.
notifications.
Well, I think if I get everything into, I don't know what the cutoff date is for, to get something into the Grand Traverse paper.
Hang on a minute, that's a problem. Lois, do you know when the cutoff is by any chance?
I don't, but it's 28 days till the 29th, which is the Wednesday before the June 5th meeting.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty sure you
Yeah.
would be within your 15 days, correct? Is that reasonable? I've never been involved in. I know
that
Cheryl handles
yeah,
the noticing.
She notices it, but she only notices it on certain days.
Well, we could. put
Well,
in with a-
I'm wondering if you could push for the 22nd, which is the week prior to Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
That
That's
if
what I
you,
was
if you did a
thinking.
Wednesday, the 22nd, I mean, that's still, today's the 1st. If Cheryl has everything on the 2nd, that's 20 days. So,
I personally am more comfortable with 4 weeks, and especially if Deb can give it to us, the information as soon as tomorrow. I mean, I don't know about your guys' schedule, but I got a lot going on every single day. And so for me to fit in the paperwork review and to fit in visiting the site, and thank you for making sure they staked everything. That's
We
That's good.
normally in the past have handled these in our regular meeting. If we start having
special meetings for every time we get one of these requests.
Well, we put a
We're
couple
gonna
in our
have 2, 3
budget.
meetings a month. We can handle this in our regular meetings in most cases.
Okay,
Wow.
so I have another proposal. I think that the one on Monroe Road is fairly straightforward, right?
It is that,
Like
that's,
maybe that could be part of our June meeting and maybe a separate meeting for this larger project because it's more involved. you
There's an
know, There's
idea.
more documentation. And that would also, it would give you another week to
Second.
fiddle with on the second one. Or you could, I agree that I'm a little concerned about the size of the large retail one. I think it's likely you'll have more people attend. And that will lengthen the meeting possibly.
That could really lengthen the meeting.
I think if we did the bigger one on its own, and then we could fit in the other one in the regular meeting.
Now,
There you
I
go.
also appreciate what Carl is saying about it is harder on you to meet twice in a month. I realize it's time consuming. It's time consuming for me to do 2 agendas. It's just extra time. I get that. But I think that project is, I just would like to see us, try and separate that big one because it is big.
The other thought is, just starting our meeting 2 hours early.
Well, you could do that too, but then you're, yeah,
No.
you're gonna,
That's a
no,
long
you're
day.
gonna have to sit here for
I'm just
5
giving out
hours.
the, yeah.
Yeah.
I-
At least-
I can't quit work early to come here.
Yeah. At least if you have the special meeting for the larger project, that's the only topic of the day.
And when would you
Uh-huh.
like to do that? Are you thinking before, Rick? Oh,
So-
sorry, go ahead, Lois.
I have a question for the minutes here. Is it West Wind Construction? Is the larger one? And
Yes.
SUP and SPR? Okay.
yes.
So I think the things that I heard as options were, have a special meeting, review both of them. Carl suggested no special meeting, just put it in a regular meeting. There was a hybrid of separate them, the large project on M72 come in at a special meeting prior to the June meeting. I think this is what I heard. And then put the smaller project off Monroe Road in the regular agenda. So those are kind of some options.
I'm good with whatever you guys decide.
I didn't hear from Mike or Denise yet.
I had a question, for this SUP site plan review, on either or both of those, do we do a site review? Actually go to the site?
Well, you should go to both sites.
Okay.
You should go to both sites, just so you know what you're evaluating. I think that's really important because, looking at something on a piece of paper or an overhead shot, you get out there and you actually walk it, it's a very different feel.
And how do we notify the land?
They already have given you permission to be on site and they know that you would be on site.
Did we
So
knock on the door and
the
say,
property, no, don't knock on the door, don't speak to them, don't talk to them,
Oh.
don't go with anybody else.
So we can't go into?
Hang
You-
on, I think
you
there's
can-
something in our
you can-
bylaws that does allow
You
that.
can go into it, you just can't discuss it. It's not something that should be discussed. You can go out, you can walk the site, evaluate it, take notes, and then bring it back to the group. I'll go, I'll walk the sites with somebody if somebody wants me to go with them, let them know where the corners are. The one on 72 is a vacant piece of land. It sits right across from the casino. It's between the pest control and the residents. It's a very deep little gully right there. I hiked down it and right back up the back hills, a nice little orchard in the back, and it really climbs in the back. So, they have the parking lot staked with blue flags. The building is
Write that
staked.
down. She just said. blue
It's,
flags are
it's,
parking lot.
but I've got photos too. But the property lines down the sides and across the back are all pink flagged, and there's writing on all the stakes. So the stakes will tell you what you're looking at.
I'd like to suggest the 29th. That gives us that extra week. A week for a regular meeting.
Right.
We are going above board by having an extra meeting for this.
Mhm.
And I think the 29th gives us that time to meet.
When's the holiday?
The
Holiday is
27th.
Before that.
Yeah,
Oh,
Monday's,
Monday's
Monday's the
2
holiday.
days after.
Yes,
Yes.
it's a
Anybody
Wednesday.
have a issue with that? day?
So
Right here,
how
buddy.
we can have the information
Don't we go through
directly,
it earlier?
we're not gonna get it a
I'll be here
week
at 10.
before that?
No, I'll have it for you tomorrow.
She's gonna give it to us.
Now, you need to tell me how you want it.
I need a hard copy. I
I
don't do
I-
computers.
I'm doing hard copies for everybody.
All right.
It's,
Sure.
they sent me a huge box of stuff. I don't want to keep all this paperwork, so you're all getting a copy.
If-
You're getting a copy, you're getting a copy. I just am adding to,
Deb, if you would just print me out a copy and leave it, and if it's okay with Mike, I could drop Mike's off for him, because,
Okay.
so that would,
as long as I know how you want, if you want to pick them up and take care of that. I've distributed them myself. I've mailed them. I've driven them to people in the past and.
Okay,
'cause I've
is
done this for
everybody
years.
okay just picking theirs up?
Yes.
I'm fine with that. Everybody's okay
all
with that?
right, Mike, by Gregor's.
Okay, so, I think, I don't know if we need a motion for this or not, or maybe just a voice vote. So I think the proposal that Keith made was that we would do the large 10,000 square foot special use and site plan review on the 29th at
A motion to do a special.
Okay.
You do.
I'll make that motion.
How will we know when the packages are available to
she's
pick up?
gonna,
I'm gonna tell you before you leave tonight.
Pardon?
I'll have them ready for you by 4 o'clock tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Check the calendar.
You'll have it 4 o'clock tomorrow.
Good.
I got a few things I gotta package together, but I'll have it ready for you tomorrow by 4.
I'd second Keith's motion.
okay, so just so everybody, maybe Lois could read that back, because there has been a lot of talk.
Want me to clarify that?
Well, go ahead and
So-
say it. I didn't even.
okay.
get to that.
Make a motion, we have a special meeting, May 29th. For
At 7 PM.
7 p.m. With a special use permit of
That property.
West Wind Construction and Development Incorporated.
They'll be represented by ENG engineering firm out of Grand Haven, Michigan. So that's who will be coming.
You said for the SEC, well, it's the site plan review and.
They
Yes.
will, it will be,
special use
it will be a special use and a site plan review. And in the package, I will include site plan review information. Tonight was special use permit, but you'll get this, the site plan review information in your packages too. And I'll include all the ordinances that support why you're reviewing that.
And that's May 29th, Wednesday.
They made 20.
Are there any conflicting requirements between the site plan and the SUPs or? Okay,
No,
And that's Monroe, that's Monroe, how do you say that?
Monroe.
Yeah, but it's,
That's different. That's for, that's not the item that we're talking about
I
right now.
understand that, but that's not a typo. There are two different roads in this community. One's Monroe and something else, correct?
that's MUNRO. Monroe, but that'll be June. And then that will be on your agenda for the June meeting would be the other special use.
Okay.
For Mr. Trumbull.
Are
So-
those packets coming out at the same time?
You know what? I will have them both ready for you tomorrow.
Oh,
You'll
Four
have, you can get both of them tomorrow, unless that's gonna confuse you, but I'd rather just get paperwork off my desk. So just get it all to
So
you.
by 4 o'clock, come by and pick it up.
What
Eh.
time?
By 4 o'clock,
The
you
end
gonna
of
be
the
here
day.
at 4 tomorrow? I'll be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I plan to be here 8 to 4 tomorrow. I've got a couple of things I gotta run out and do. I got a list of sites to check.
what they've done in the past, Deb, is just set them on that there and we just
Their
grab
name on
there. They put like Al, Mike, or.
Do I need to put them in an envelope or
Yeah.
package them
Yeah,
up?
here's
Yeah,
the
that's-
next one.
Okay,
Yeah.
And there, that's in the, toss in the copy.
okay, all right.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay, so back to our motion,
Okay.
please. Okay, so we had a motion. Do you want to read that back, Lois?
Yeah, motion by Dion, second by Keaton to hold a special meeting, May 29 at 7 PM. For the public hearing of West Wind Development site plan review and special use permit.
Okay,
That would be 4. not 12.
okay. So
I'm gonna double check.
do we need a roll call vote for this? Okay, so all those in favor of the special use meeting on May 29th?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed?
I might be 5 minutes late.
Okay, so the next question I have is, do we need a similar motion for the public hearing for the other meeting? The other project to be integrated into the, okay, just for the special. Okay, and can I ask another clarifying question? Who types up those special meeting notices?
I do.
Oh, good.
Oh,
You have a lot more
I
things
will
than
type-
you know. You're gonna be a happy lady.
From right there. This is gonna be M72. That's the owner. That's Midwest V LLC is what the paperwork came in versus what Bob had written.
So it's not West Point.
Yes, take off West Wind and put the Midwest. I'm not sure where the West Wind came from. Yeah, I'll be typing up the notification. I will send it to Cheryl Goss. She will be putting it in the paper and then it'll be posted. Should go on the website and then go out here in the box. I'll be sending notices out to everybody within 300 feet of both properties for the hearings.
Okay, so do we need to correct our motion because?
Yes, I'm
this is
sorry. That's
Incorrect.
why I grabbed that.
Okay, so
document.
you said it's Midwest something.
And then,
And I don't know if you want to put the property owner's name on there as well, but that's who the property owner and the parcel number probably should be part of that motion.
And is the property owner? Who is that?
Oxy?
Okay. She's got a different piece of paper, okay.
That's about the size of the package right there. So there's a little information there. I'll probably add another
Yeah,
10
yeah.
pages to it.
you know, really, when you open it up and
It's
look
not
at
bad.
it, does it take?
So it will include your analysis report, right?
Yes,
We
it
talked
will.
about that already. Okay,
Yeah.
so do we just need to, I don't know what we need to do at this point because reread the motion. Yeah. Property number or parcel number.
Parcel numbers on that document.
Do you want me to read you the parcel number, Lois?
No, I've got it. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have.
That's okay, I was just gonna help you.
Motion by Dion, second by Keaton.
Yes.
To hold a special meeting, May 29th at 7 PM for the public hearing of Midwest V LLC, property owner Dennis and Judith Hotsey, parcel number 2813-0560825 for site plan review and special use permit.
Okay, so that was a motion by
Mhm.
Keith DeYoung, seconded by Al. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Good with that. And you got the note that the Monroe property special use permit will be on the June agenda. The second special use permit will integrate that with our June agenda. If you could just put that in the notes, please. And before we move on from this topic, I have one last comment. I brought this up when Deb was at the podium. The ex parte communications, so in our bylaws, page 9, I have this highlighted. It's a policy of the PC to not take part in meetings of 3 or more PC members at any location with an applicant to discuss pending action items. So just closing out what she already said, no discussion with any property owner. You don't ask for permission to enter. If you go with another PC member, you may do so, but you're not to discuss the application, only the facts, like the corners of the property, right?
You can, or just look around, just walk through, compare the site. Compare the site plan drawing to what the property looks like and see if everything fits.
Mhm.
And, you know, pretend you live next door and are you gonna be comfortable with this? And what would your questions be? So it's just, a lot of it's just basic common sense, you know? Okay,
I'm not sure I understand. My understanding, if I've been to site plan reviews before
Mhm.
for the ZBA, we have to have the owner's permission.
we have it in writing. We have a letter from the
Okay.
owner that we can access the
But,
property.
you know, if we're there, we have to identify who we are, why we're there.
Um,
But, yes, we don't, we can ask,
Let them approach you, Carl.
right, and, you don't go knock on the door, but, you could just tell me you're there, if I look scary.
Some people wear a little badge that says Whitewater Township ZBA or
Yeah.
Whitewater Township PC or whatever, you
Mhm.
put your name on it.
They usually
They,
have
but,
the,
but they know, and I will inform both of them that you'll be out.
Yeah.
The property on Monroe Road is just south of Gay and Monroe on the east side of the road. He's got a big hoop building and his special use is gonna be inside. He's got two large doors that haven't been installed yet at each end. So he was gonna start constructing some of the walls.
I drove by that the other day.
I told him to put tape down unless he was gonna get started, but he's wanting to get the walls up. And so I told him it was okay to go ahead and start putting walls up. He got all of it foamed, insulated. So, but it doesn't have big doors on the end. So it's just one of those things, you drive in the driveway and go take a look. He's got a cute little dog. He loves to chase the ball, but he's harmless. But
What about the parking for the M72 property?
She said it's marked off.
yeah,
I mean,
parking, I
where
parked
do I
along
put my
M72.
car?
It was,
No.
it was,
What,
bad.
you could
No.
park at
was-
a party store.
It was
Be
very
like-
windy. You may be able to park at the
In the
property
substation?
next door. No, you could probably park in the parking lot at the pest control. I didn't, I parked along the road, but you could probably park there because I actually walked down and then went west and then came back up the far hillside as I was taking my pictures and stuff. So I actually walked a little paved path to nowhere. I think it was an old farmhouse that might have been there, or an old business, but there was still cement sidewalk right along the top of the ridge there. So,
Okay.
but,
It was a cooling pad.
oh, was there?
It
Okay.
was a cooling pad for.
Oh,
chairs.
okay, all right. Well, it was only about this wide. Everything else must have been overgrown with cement, with grass, but there were a couple cars in the parking lot. I parked along 72, but it wasn't probably the safest thing to do.
No.
So,
Do you know Tony Dean?
Yeah, actually, he just sprayed my house today, so I feel okay
Oh,
about
I think
parking there.
It's in here. I think it's
You
right
just
in
talked
there.
to him.
Right, yeah.
and it's not a
I
far.
guess only, say it's okay, we'll fill it in and make sure it's
Yeah.
tapered.
Okay.
empty.
What was the question? Okay, one discussion, please. Yeah, okay. I think we can all handle that. That's pretty easy. The ladies there all the time this time of year.
We have to have a motion for the site for Trumbull.
No.
No, they said that we do not. We can just add that to the agenda of the June meeting.
Okay.
And I had Lois put it in the notes.
Okay.
Okay, any other further questions before we move on? Okay. Next on the agenda. Okay, Chair Slopsama, I have nothing further to add. Township Board Reps Valmuth, do you have any information from the township board?
Well, guys, they didn't have a forum, so they didn't have a meeting.
Okay,
So everything I told you last month is now gonna happen this month. But I do have some education materials and I kind of had a pet peeve. So I decided I would watch some plan commission meetings. And I actually watched Traverse City's plan commission meeting where they were just going through everything, finalizing, updating their master plan. And they used the word magazine and, you know, so they're past us a little ways, but what I was interested to see was how they handled the meeting when they took roll call. Because I don't think somebody should say absent if somebody's called in and said, I'm not gonna be there, or the chair already knows. So I wanted to see how that worked. So they did have absent, and they also used excused. I think when we take roll, we should be telling the public whether we called in or not, that's all. But for somebody to just say absent, that's like, oh, why is that person absent again? I mean, that's what I tried to put my shoes on everybody's feet in the room and outside looking in and everything. And it's always bothered me, even sitting over there for many, many years, that we don't, why are we calling in if somebody's gonna call us absent? You know, why should we even bother? And if we let Linda know ahead of time, she doesn't have to bug you and say, are you coming tonight?
Well,
know.
we don't really have any attendance issues that I've noticed, so.
That's not what the issue was. The issue was, go ahead.
Because that's part of what I do, almost always when someone is absent. That's just the way that it is on here, almost always the chair or someone will say if they call in.
Right, but
Yeah.
somebody's
always
not,
is that.
I understand that. But what I was getting at is this way, everything's the same. That's all. I mean, think about it. You don't want me to change it? No big deal. My next issue was, I just thought it was, you know, you took the time to call in, we should at least tell you you're excused. My next, homework is, I already told you about this at the, public comments last meeting. The township planning and decision book, guess what it has in them? A nice checklist for when you're on your site plan submittal requirements. So when you're doing your homework, here's another checklist for you to get to. I'm sure it might be in your packet down the road. The other thing I have, and I hand it all out to you, is basically from Michigan State University about we're responsible for our annual report. So I wanted everybody to take a couple minutes in the next month or two and read this and just start keeping notes of what you would like to see in the annual report. Cruise around and look at a couple different ones because it is our responsibility along with the zoning administrator. But I wanted everybody to understand that it's required. And I
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
think,
we're aware of this. We just did this
Yeah, and,
with Rachel.
okay.
and we're
So-
taking notes
so-
regularly.
So thank you, but
but,
okay. I think we know this. Are we aware of this?
Yes.
Okay. the
I
only
think
problem-
we are the only ones that got ours in on time.
Exactly, and here's the other issue I have. Audit ours. Just audit it. Okay, guys, just do me a favor and audit it. Read this and then audit ours. Because you can make a mistake once, but when you make a mistake twice, it sets a precedence. But that's where I was going with it. So I just wanted a little review. It's our report. We did a fantastic job. Rachel made it pretty and colorful. But maybe we want to go in a different, maybe it's too much of a report. You know, look at it and see. Because that was some of the opinion and comments we got when we did it, was why was this in it? Why was that in it? And that came from other people out of this room too. So I'm just trying to prepare us down the road to start thinking, hey, you know, audit ours. Did we do something good in there? Yes, we did. Did we maybe make a mistake according
So
to something we
Heidi,
did?
you said we should audit the report. Are there concerns that you have with the report that we turned in this
Well,
past year? I mean,
I think
if
we
you
left
have
a couple things
concern,
out. I
you
think we
need-
left a couple things out.
Okay, so what I would really like you to do is next month, write us a report and let us know what are the things you thought we missed. Because just talking about it, the information becomes lost easily. So if
Okay,
you have specific concerns, it would be great if you would give it to me in time for the packet so it can be added to the packet and everybody can have a chance to review it.
so, okay, then forget about auditing it till it's in your packet. How's that?
Okay. That's what I mean is, and I can then also attach the report and people can review it. I mean, I think it would be a better use of our time that way.
That's fine. I just want to make sure you guys know that it's our responsibility. We need to do a little better.
Okay, does anybody else have any feedback for Heidi on what she talked about?
I think that's
Well,
all. I have a,
This document here from Michigan State University tells us, suggests what should be in the annual report.
correct.
Because we didn't have this previously, so it's fine, you know, to look at it and in the future, make sure we include the appropriate information for our township. I mean, not every
Right.
one's gonna be the same, so.
So I guess I would like to reiterate, and I know I'm guilty of this too, okay? Full disclosure, today I handed you out a piece of paper in the meeting. When we hand out paper in the meeting and it is not in the packet, you lose your permanent documentation. So if it's important, it's really important to get it to the person put into the packet, which is me and Lois, and to have it in time for it to get to you, because that is a permanent record retained by the township. When we hand stuff out, this never shows up anywhere, okay? It just goes in people's personal files, and so if everybody wanted to find out what was that thing, blah, 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 well, if it's important enough to be, if it's important that you want follow-up, it really is, if at all possible, okay? So I think we could all learn from that.
Linda, that's what I was gonna do. Some people have calendars, like they put out a calendar for the whole year and it says packet due, packet due, packet due, packet due, packet due, so that if you have any information, that's your due date. You blow that due date.
Okay, I'll send you all a meeting notice, okay? I think that's a good action. I can do that for the rest of the year, which just says this is gonna be my target date. So I try and put it out so that you have, I was told to make sure I give you at least a week. Does that sound right? And so I need some flexibility, so I need it like at least 3-4 days ahead of that, so I have time to put it together depending on how complicated it is. All right, I will make a note of that.
I have some
Thank you.
correspondence, but you want that under the master plan? Cause it's all related to the master plan.
You have correspondence from the public on the master plan. You need to submit that to me for the next packet, because it needs to
Okay,
be part of
and
the
she
permanent
just didn't
record.
know, she didn't, that's what she was gonna do after I discussed it. She was gonna say, I'll forward everything, but I would rather have you put it in the packet personally, if that's what you wanna
Yes,
do.
absolutely, that, because we, again, we should not be subverting the documentation process, okay? Because then those people's comments disappear. And if you disagree, let me know, but
No,
I'm kind of big on
totally agree with
documentation.
you. I asked her to do this a month ago, but
All this extra paperwork when we show up.
And they should be,
It's not right.
the PC members' emails are online and they are to be used, you know? If they want their comments considered, they should be sending it to all the PC members, absolute minimum the chair. So, I mean, people should just be aware of that. Not all the committees post all their emails, but we do for that reason.
okay, I'll send it to you, then I don't have any more comments.
Okay. Now I'm trying to remember the note I was gonna make about the calendar,
calendar.
right?
Just,
Okay.
because if we had a calendar, it said, okay, plan commission stuff due. If you blow that, you at least know, okay, now I gotta put it out at the meeting. But we shouldn't be putting stuff out at the meeting unless it's an emergency.
I will send you all an email and a Google calendar, so however you manage your calendar, you can figure it out from there.
And you'll print one for Michael.
Yeah. Sure. I'll put it in the mail, put a stamp on it.
See,
All right.
we all take care of you. We all got you.
Okay, no problem. All right, Carl, do you have any news from the ZBA that we need to be aware of?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we're to the master plan. I think first we had Randy had a timeline that he put together to just review with us. For some reason, my copy hacked off the end of it. I'm not sure why. Okay. What is Oh, maybe it was, maybe it was 11 by 14.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same
It's
as
like
mine.
it was slid a little bit.
Okay, all right.
one way.
So Randy, do you want to talk us through this timeline? And if anybody has any questions?
Certainly, there's a couple of documents in your packet there, the first of which is probably the more easily to read and colorful document on page 8 that really just shows the general flow chart of the steps required to adopt your master plan. And the first of which starts with the planning commission approving it, of course, and then submitting it to the legislative body for review and comment. Their action, however, is one of two things. You're asking them to distribute this proposed plan to the adjacent jurisdictions for comment. The adjacent jurisdictions also include not only the townships and villages so far, but also MDOT, the county, so forth. You weren't aware of this, but when we started this process, we notified everyone that the township was undertaking a master plan process. So we have a list of everyone who was notified. And that's again, part of the statute that's necessary. So as I've said before, the process unfortunately is rather long in that it requires a 63-day comment period, which is quite substantial. There can basically nothing happens. It's dead air because but that's what the law says and that's what you have to do. The planning commission then prepares a response to those comments with 63 days and moves into a public hearing. And
Can I
then,
ask a question there? Who does,
Sure.
does the response go to the commenter or does it have to go to like the board or like, who's that go to?
I would comment, or I would provide both answers
Mhm.
to them, just as a matter of best
So basically,
practices.
we
Yeah.
have to tally the comments and provide feedback.
Correct. There's not, just because MDOT says something or the road commission says something, doesn't mean we have to completely respond to everything that they want, but we have to consider their comment and discuss it and then take an action about it. So it's basically these two steps of having the notification to adjacent jurisdictions and then the public hearing that actually happens. So you're preparing responses. So this can obviously drag out 4 months, easy, just because of the
You
way
ever
the
seen it
statute.
go worse?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm sorry, have you ever seen it go what?
Yeah, it can. I mean,
Longer than 63 days
For 4 months.
or 4 months? Okay.
it can, and I've seen it go to just the mere minimum when they want to get it done or drag out. So that's really hard to predict and hard to know. The planning commission does have to act by resolution and votes to adopt the plan. And then there is something in there about the town board. The town board has to pass a resolution that says they're asserting their authority to approve the master plan.
Right.
That's it. And then, so I have some of the detail there in the Michigan State material that follows here. You'll see on page, what was it? 9. If the governing body, which in our case is the township board, notifies the secretary of the planning commission of their authority to adopt it. Most of the time, your legislative body does do that. But that's a step that needs to happen as well. So after the planning commission is approving it, the township board is approving it.
What if they don't approve it?
If I read everything right, if I understood what I read, they tell us what they didn't like and we rework it. What I did like about what I read was they have to tell us what they didn't like.
Exactly, I
which has
knew
been a
that.
problem.
Well, they've been told to read the plan by me as an advertisement in my seat from the podium. I don't know how much more I can ask them to read it.
So it sounds like they are compelled within, it doesn't give them a timeline, but they're compelled to either approve or reject it. And if they reject, give the detail as to why.
Tell us why.
Okay.
Right, they have to give us detail why.
So I kind of warned you at the beginning of this process that the tail end is is really cumbersome
Wiggly.
and difficult because of that, these elements that they put into the Planning Act back in 2008.
Mhm.
But it is what it is, and that's what we have to follow. So otherwise, we don't have a legally adopted master plan. So we want to do that.
Okay,
So we'll just go through the process step by step and.
Yep.
I think well, I think it makes sense that the town board know that they have to pass something that says that they're in a position or that they want to adopt a plan. Because they have to take action to do that, the way I read it.
Yeah.
So do we submit the plan with the plan of action with it in their packet?
When it comes to them, when the planning commission is done and we're asking permission to distribute it, we can't distribute it to everyone else until they give us the approval to do that.
They're not actually approving the
No,
plan by allowing it to go out to comment.
right, exactly. So hopefully they would allow that pretty easily. It should be an easy decision.
Are you sending them that? Am I sending them it? Is it who's putting that into their packet?
I will help you do that.
Okay. I'm just.
That's
yeah,
all right.
and
Asking the
I would
question.
think isn't it also by action of the planning commission, say, this is the draft we want. So we received
Right.
feedback at our last meeting on
Says-
April 18th.
We
Says
did.
right here, the planning commission submits draft plan to the legislative body for
For
review and comment.
comments.
Right, so we
So-
have to
so-
all agree that we're comfortable with our draft. And I would
That's-
think that we would have a motion for that, and then we would then,
Give it to 'em.
and Randy would help us mechanize
Yeah.
forwarding documentation
Now,
to the
here's the
board for their
question.
review.
Do you want to have you know how we brought them in at night in a joint meeting with them? Do you want to have a joint meeting to present it to them? Or do you want it to just show up in their packet?
I think it should just show up in their packet and they do the work like they're supposed to.
Create a meeting time with another.
It seems like we just lose another 2 months doing
Right,
it.
well, I'm just
But,
asking the
you know,
question. We've done it
Heidi,
before.
you're a board member. You're completely welcome to ask that question of the board and ask for their feedback. Fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I've already done that.
Well, it sounded like you had a question about it.
No, the question I had was, how do you guys want to present it? You know, we've had joint meetings with them. Do you
Yeah.
want to present it in a joint meeting? Or do you just want to put it in their packet? That's what
I'd
I
put it in
was
the
asking.
packet.
I think that might be a good idea. I attended a class last week at NTA's meeting at the Grand Traverse Resort and the subject of it was deep dive into land use planning and decision making. But quite a big part of that discussion was coming up with the master plan. And it was important to include the board. We've had 2 meetings with the board, were I think 2 of the best meetings we've ever had. There was a good understanding between the board and ourselves. And the suggestion at this was that in coming up with the master plan, it is important to include the board in what we're doing, and we've done that. And I think that would be the time for another meeting to present it to them for their review and any suggestions before they then approve it to go out to the thing. I think it's a much better idea than just handing it to them.
My thought on that is, it would, I don't think it would work to have a meeting to present it to them. I think they should have it in their packet. And
And
then
then
if they would like to have a meeting after that,
We're more than willing.
if they can't go ahead and just approve it then.
You know what? That's a good idea
And then
because
they would like the meeting after that.
if they're
to
gonna-
explain
right.
Things or whatever, then we.
that's right. That's a good idea because that forces them to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, that forces them
Just
to read
presenting
it.
it to them, they're just gonna say, well, we'll take a look at this and
Yeah.
we're wasting everybody's
It's
time.
real easy to go
They
like
have had
this.
to have read it before we sit down with them.
I mean, do
That's
you all agree with that?
I think that's.
I think
like
that's an
that.
awesome idea.
I like that idea.
So.
Randy, your
based-
thoughts?
They've had half of it for a year or better.
We know that, but I don't have time for this. Happens a lot with those.
All right, so I think is it the consensus of everybody that once our draft is after we, Randy's still, I'm sure, integrating comments from the last meeting, we will review it ourselves and then we will forward it to them. They should be scheduling it on their agenda. There's no reason why we can't monitor their meeting and then decide where to go from there. Right?
Perfect.
So if they have a lot of problems, I would think that we would need to have a meeting,
Right.
but maybe they'll be fine.
They may see it's just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Might not have
Sounds
to have
good.
a meeting.
Thank you. All right, so we covered timeline. Randy, did you have any special comments that you wanted to make or anything?
No, I've got a,
Feedback from last meeting?
got a pile of material to go through. Mike and I met last Friday, I think it was.
Okay.
Went through some of his other comments that were rather small, I think, in terms of
Okay,
just grammatical things.
Sure.
So I'm just working through it. I'm following up with the origin of the comments from either the planning commission or the ROS member. If there's any questions that I have
Okay.
with them. So
all right.
I guess I didn't hear any major objections to the changes that were discussed or proposed. So so I would expect that I would have that for your June meeting.
Okay,
Oh, she just gave you another 25.
What's that?
So there's 25 comments on here.
From who?
The correspondence person.
Well, so
Here's a thought. Should we have a deadline for comments?
well, pardon me just a moment. The public comment comes when there's the public hearing.
Right.
So this is really the planning commission getting its head around whether or not,
That's what I'm saying. for
whether
us,
you agree that the document, as you've changed it and you've edited it and you've commented on it, is appropriate to carry forward, to distribute and to get to the township board.
And would this be considered public comment?
I don't know the origin of that.
Kim Magnus.
Yeah, I would think so.
That would be-
Everybody that was here at the meeting was either on the RSO committee or part of us. So what Randy's saying, that's where all the comments he's dealing with right now came from. Let's keep it to that. When we have the public hearing, that sort of stuff. And then
So what do you want me to do with this correspondence? Send it to you, Linda? Send it, put it on the. in the
whose
packet?
eyes did she intend that for? Or maybe
Uh,
you need to ask that question.
She basically wanted, well, she is the past chair from here, so I would imagine she wanted all of us to know her comments.
she made comments at the meeting.
She did make comments.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe these.
So I would just respectfully ask her to send it to the planning commission members.
Okay.
Comfortable.
She knows how to do that. Send it directly. It will be added to our packet for next month.
To clarify that point, if someone wants to send correspondence to the PC, do they send it to you as the chair to put in the packet, not to us individually?
I think they can do it either way. And if you receive something that's correspondence regarding PC, whether it's in that snail mail box over there that rarely gets checked, or if they send it to your email, if it is not personal mail, but actual correspondence, then it should be forwarded to be put in the packet because it's correspondence. It's supposed to be. And sometimes I realize things are a little fuzzy, so you might have to ask, like I had to ask this past month, do you want this as correspondence? But I asked the person that wrote the letter and they should, yes, they should send it. So, I mean, if anybody disagrees or thinks that's unreasonable, let me know. But I don't like losing people's stuff because I don't think it's respectful.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
go ahead.
I was gonna, could you kind of give us a timeline of what you expect us to have this comments added? So that we have an idea of what meeting we're going to be approving?
Well, I believe I can get through what I have to get through and have an updated draft to you next month. But I don't know. I mean, I wasn't sure coming into the meeting today if Rod had any comments because the request for comments was to planning commission members and ROS members. And we gave them the form and said, be specific. It's hard to deal with somebody say, I don't like this, or this doesn't sound right, or I mean, what does that mean? That puts us in a difficult position of responding to someone's comment. So that's why we did what we did.
That's why we had a form.
Right, a form and a process, and it was targeted towards planning commission members and ROS members who were involved in the process from the very beginning. Now, again, there is a public comment portion of this but I think you need to think about how we're gonna manage the process of comments on this.
We should have the same type of form
Mhm.
for the public if they want to bring something forward.
Yeah, and I
Bring
mean,
it uniform so that,
Be specific.
yeah.
Yeah.
right.
I,
So I mean, the one closing comment I would say is, people have the right to address the various governing bodies here. So, they don't always put it in the right form and everything. I think it's our duty to review the information. And that topic of this information will be in next month's packet. Okay?
But in the public hearing, yeah, somebody's back when it comes to the public hearing, go, well, here's my questions 1 through 10, and I typed them all out for you.
I understand that,
But-
and their comments were listened to, notes were taken.
Okay, I
So-
got it recorded, okay. So you don't expect the person to come to the podium during the public hearing and follow up.
People can choose whatever method they want to use to communicate. We did provide a form. They could have used it if they wanted to. It was
So-
suggested.
Are you saying that the comments that were to be put in correspondence next month and the public comments today, that those will not be included in your
well, I guess I don't know,
document?
for example, in Rod's comments, I don't really know what to change based on what he said.
I didn't really see him say
No.
anything
Right.
specific, other than he reiterated that he felt that certain items on page 84 were important. I didn't hear him say, I don't like this. you
Yeah, he
need to
didn't
change
ask for
this."
any changes. It just,
Okay,
Yeah.
Even,
so,
Oh, he could go ahead and prepare the finalized portion of the document for the next meeting for us to approve based upon our last meeting
yes,
comments.
he could.
Yes.
And
yeah.
then
That's the
that's
plan.
that's
Right.
what we can go ahead and consider
Yes.
that and approve or
Yes.
whatever. Okay. And then send that to the board.
Right,
I think we're just waiting from a final draft from Randy so that we can look at it, but it's kind of been, we've already looked at it, but we want to see what goes before it goes.
Right.
But I think we're already
right.
there.
Yeah, and you do have to, like Randy said, if you look at this chart, which thanks for doing this, Randy, it shows you, when the huge public hearing
Right.
takes place, when it takes place on the timeline. And
There's a certain sequence to this, you
Right.
have the planning commission approve it, accept it, yes, this is it. And then the town board approves its distribution. We get comments from other jurisdictions. You're building towards something
right,
as opposed to chasing shiny objects everywhere.
Do you want me to get
Well,
that? You want me to
that's
get that
correct.
in?
And every time somebody writes us something, I think we have a duty to read it, but you don't necessarily have a duty
To
to
change it.
act upon it.
Yeah.
Because if every time somebody sends in
Hopes
a
that
little
you'll
memo,
screw-
you will never get your task done. So timing is everything. The meeting was announced.
Do you guys want me to put that sheet in the board packet? Cause I can probably still make
What sheet are you?
the sheet that you just talked about, the blue. That one right there. Want me to share that?
so
as
the
my plan
board
with the
knows-
board? Yeah.
So the board
You
knows
can, but just print it off correctly off the file because
I got one.
somehow it didn't.
I got the
format.
whole
He's
thing.
got a good one.
Okay,
So our meeting is on the 5th. Let's say we approve our master plan. If May 11th is not the 10-day requirement for the township board meeting, do you want to put like a placeholder for that in their agenda?
Meeting? Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to wait till July?
I would like Randy to complete his work. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? So you're asking because of the timing of the PC meeting relative to the next board meeting and the cutoff of the packet, that could be a problem. That's what you're saying?
would
I
say
can
let's
also
finish
add
it.
it.
Yeah, I,
The other thing
Let's
I can
finish
do,
it
I
and
can
then
also
vote.
add it that day if we have a full board.
Do you want it on the township board's June meeting?
I would say, let's see what Randy has, get it back, and if we all agree with it, then we can take the next step,
Yeah.
which would be to get it out, because
So
what,
what
if it comes back and there's some things we would like to see changed, then,
and
then
having it
it's
on their meeting agenda is wrong.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
just get it back and approve it and send it on, just like the,
Let's do due diligence and get what we really like done, and when we are happy with it, then we'll figure out how to get it to the board.
yeah, then move it.
I mean, I think we're on a really, I don't really care if it sets us back 30 days. We're
Yep.
really close to having a really good document. Let's just take our few last little steps here and make sure we like what we got before we try to make a plan.
Try to rush it. Yeah, let's just
At this
finish it,
point in the
we'll send
game,
it
let's
through.
not rush it.
That's a
Almost
timing, it's a timing thing too. I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
like without them having a meeting, they're gonna be backlogged anyways.
Right,
Yeah.
And
right.
it might be better to have it in July than June.
And do me a favor, everybody come to that meeting that day if you're not working.
Which one?
Whatever meeting you guys give the master plan to the board, I want to see all you in the audience.
Oh, okay.
We'll try and make it.
All right. Is there anything else anybody has related to the master plan for discussion tonight?
I guess I do. Looking, oh, sorry. At the end of the last meeting, I'll call you Commissioner DeYoung.
Oh.
I'll call you, you brought up that there were like 9 items that we could accomplish in a year or less. That's an ambitious timeline if we were going to do all 9. I don't think anyone has to decide tonight, but I think we need to prioritize what we think are the top 3 or 4. And even that would take a lot of research and work, and we may want to volunteer to head up one person, like does short-term rentals, one does road ordinance or something, and then maybe have someone from the ROS or anyone from the community that's interested help us assemble all the data research into a paper to distribute to the rest of the board, because it's a lot of research and it's summer and a lot of things are going on, and I don't know how much time all of you have, but you know, it would be easier for us to accomplish something.
So I think the other thing that was mentioned at that meeting, and Randy did send me a follow-up document that I did not put in the packet for this meeting, but there are some standard methodologies that I've seen used in businesses and private business. And I can't remember, Randy, the context of your example, but there are typically ways which use 3 or 4 factors to evaluate a project to determine how to prioritize. And sometimes it's like how much resource consumption, meaning research, how much work are you going to have to do to understand the problem so you can take action. And then sometimes it's how hard is it going to be to do that? Like, do you have the resources to do that? So there's sometimes these multi-factor ways that help groups of people come to a consensus on prioritizing. So you don't usually do all the research up front on all, however many, but it helps you try and have a logical discussion instead of a feeling type discussion about which one of these can we agree is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And so I'm glad that people are thinking about this, because I have that same concern. I've seen the rate of pace in the past that zoning ordinances have been modified, and it's not real quick. And I do agree that a lot of these, and I think Rod Rebant said this very well earlier during public comment, that some of these things are significantly impactful to all of the residents, and they are not to be handled hastily or without adequate discussion with all of the residents. Because again, that's the respectful thing. You have to make sure that you can get to a point where everybody can be reasonably satisfied with something, because, you know, that's always the goal, right? Is to make sure that people think an ordinance is fair and equitable.
My point to that comment is that, you know, really, we don't have anything until this is approved. But it's just to get everybody thinking that, you know,
Yeah.
once we have an approved document, I don't want to just see it sit there either. So that's
Right.
my point is that let's think about how we're going to prioritize that. And it sounds like we may have a way to do that.
I think there's some best practices that can be pulled out. We don't have to invent something. There's templates and recommendations.
I think in the back of our heads, let's think about once this is finally approved by the board, you know, the next month or so, we need to start looking at that.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to do during the 63-day period, you know, those are really good things to.
I think too, if
Think
we
about.
look back to our outreaches, if we look back to where all of our dots were at, the community kind of said what is most important to them. So that might be a good thing to go
That
back and look at.
That's
and say,
another good
yeah,
Go
back and look at-
objective source of
See
information,
what
yes.
was most important to the community and start there.
Especially some of that really discrete survey data that had a big sample
Yeah.
size. That was
Yeah.
really, I was looking at that this past week, and that's some really good information. Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything more with the master plan project? Okay, then I'm gonna move on to Randy's zoning map status. Do you have a quick update on the
Oh, I
map?
do. Yes, I spoke to the surveyor today, actually, this morning, and he is nearly done. And I asked him, you might remember part of his scope of services is to attend a planning commission meeting to present the results of what he's found. I mentioned to him that the expectation would be June, if it works on the planning commission's schedule.
Mhm.
So he said that would work for him.
I think
Perfect.
so, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Good to us.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then, because if
He's gonna come present it to us in June.
he is going to come and answer questions and show you what the work that has been done and show us a new zoning map that is going to be based on the legal descriptions that gets us away from that.
And yeah, no more
Okay.
spaghetti bowl.
Good deal.
Good.
So if that's acceptable to the
Yep.
planning, I told him I would let him know. Sure.
Do we need that?
You might want to come.
So we'll add that to the agenda for June. That'll be, okay. perfect.
That'd be great.
So
On this map, I see that. I was noticing on the other map where I live, for instance, it was colored RC recreational. I guess it's the same, it's just colors are kind of the same. Never mind. Disregard.
It's really small there, so it's kind of hard to see.
I just got my colors mixed up.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing that zoning map before, but I guess, so I guess there's another one. It's-
What, this one?
Yeah.
See?
No, not with the state land shown on it.
With the blue, he said.
Yes, with the blue. Everything else looks identical, but the blue and the green there at the bottom is
So
new.
I either printed it out of the master plan document, the old one, or I printed it off the zoning map on the zoning part of the website, but I can't swear for sure which one it was.
So just a clarification point again, zoning ordinances have two parts. There's a zoning map that says how land is zoned, colored like this. That zoning map is part of the zoning ordinance itself. It's referenced. There's a thing that says the zoning map is titled this. It's identified by the signatures of the supervisor and or clerk. It is formally tied together. There's not just a map that floats around and no one's sure what's the last. Then you also list where all the amendments have come from.
So do we think that we actually have one like that?
Well, we will. I mean, that's what we'll,
I know, but
Yeah.
previously? Do we think we had one that was signed?
Not
Oh,
I
mine.
don't think we do.
No, you know what they think? They think an intern and Leslie did it. So
Yeah,
an
all right.
intern and the
Yeah,
zoning
I've
administrator.
heard that story. Okay,
So for all I know, it's correct. I guess it's just that
yeah. I
there's
hope that's-
nothing
I
that
hope It's pretty close.
I do too.
He's certified, he's
gonna
registered,
know.
so I know it's close. It's
Sure
better
that
than
you would
close.
have raised the hand. if
Yeah,
it
we
was
would've-
a huge
Would have heard
problem.
some screaming by now, I think. if
Yeah,
that
it's
happened.
registered, he's registered. so.
Okay, so I think, Randy, we're ready to move on to, you wanted to review some of the zoning ordinance stuff on the screen, right?
I do. I wanted to show you, it's not ready for prime time yet, but I wanted to show you exactly how this
You're at.
ordinance is coming together. I wanted to remind you that what you have is, as Deb mentioned earlier, a online zoning book with draft through about a third of it or more. You also have the binders, which is two binders, actually, one binder with the ordinance, another binder with an incomplete set of amendments. Pretty close, but not complete. I passed out before that list of all the amendments where we went and double checked them and found a few discrepancies. We fixed it. It was confusing also in that for the last couple of years, anyway, the last 5 or 10, I think there's been a practice of naming amendments, but then numbering amendments, but then they were never, some of them were not approved. So you have amendment number XX, whatever. It went through the planning commission, public hearing, and then the town board didn't act on it. So then when the next amendment came along, they numbered the next one. So there's, I think, 3 or 4 like that. So that gets you kind of confused because you can't find where the town board acted on something. So it's, so it's confusing. So there's like amendment 84 that doesn't have anything with it. So once you get past that, you find some of the other amendments in there, but anyway. So what we're trying to do is move away from this binder stuff into one book. A zoning ordinance is one book. It is not a bunch of separate amendments that float around that are amended independently. The material you have here, and Deb, I'm sure will verify this, has definitions in, I think, 5 different places. Terminology about cell towers, terminology about signs, terminology about all these things where they put their own set of definitions, not looking to see whether or not it was already defined in chapter 2, in article 2. Some cases, there's conflicts. There's the
Oh,
same
there's
term
Major conflict.
defined differently in 2 different places. So I put all the definitions in one place, got rid of the things that are conflicting. And let me show you now, then we've moved it also from just simple PDFs to a Word document now with links and bookmarks in it. And I think you kind of know how this works, but
Tangled up.
Oh, God, be careful.
Can you see or are you too close?
Oh, we'll see. After he puts it on there, I'll tell you.
Did I go turn the lights on?
I'll get brighter in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Right, so this is just the Word document itself. So I'm just going to scroll through it and show you. First of all, we have a table of contents, which we don't have right now. We have just, I mean, which, oh, I'm sorry.
Ears and a little fuzzy.
It's a little fuzzy.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go. And I don't have to put my.
It's like an eyes up there.
So as I said, so this is, and some material's been moved around from one place to another. The existing structure of this has a bunch of separate articles, some of them with just one section in it. It really doesn't make any sense. This is how zoning ordinances are typically organized, with some of the original stuff about just the general title, purpose and scope and effective date and repeal of a prior ordinance and things like that. We have the definitions. This is going to reference the zoning map and the districts. We're establishing the districts, establishing a zoning map that is part of this ordinance. And then any questions about interpreting the zoning boundaries are defined and how you do that. We have the use regulations for all of the different zoning districts, all of them from agricultural to industrial, and then all the dimensional requirements. There's a handful of supplemental development standards. Again, this was pulled from throughout the whole ordinance, put in one place so that we don't have, you don't have to go hunting through this. And you have to be sympathetic to Deb and what she has to do to look at a plan, a set of plans and look through these binders here and tell somebody whether it meets the ordinance or not. I mean, it's a huge task to do that. We have a corridor overlay planning district, which is a problem in itself because this is the district that defines a corridor overlay district over 72. One section says that it is applying to all land 500 feet on either side of the center line of 72. And another section says when you approve a project, you rezone it to that. It can't be both. We got to fix that part. The regular planned unit development is there. That'll be in Article 7. It's all the existing material. I've tried to stay away from changing anything. The condominium development regulations, we just went through a couple of years ago. It's exactly the way it was approved. But all the off-street parking and loading in one area, we've got areas to be able to see what this is required. We have the landscape standards here. I've went and scanned all of the graphics that you had in the document, some of which were backwards and put them in upside down and whatnot. The exterior lighting regulations are in here. Our site plan review, we talked earlier about the fact that we're trying to separate, we want to separate out site plan review from special use. It's possible to have a site plan review that's not a special use, so we want the requirements separate. I was attending some meetings when this was being discussed and the chapters were together. And I remember the planning commission, several planning commission members saying, we need to separate these. And so this is a good chance to do that. Those two chapters should not be together. There's overlap, but they should be two chapters. Our special uses, here's the whole requirements for the process that's already in your ordinance. Sometimes you'll see capitals here, that's just because of some of the formatting. The sign regulations, that whole section needs to be updated. It is out of sync with the Supreme Court case that happened about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Even Muni Code identified that. And that was several years ago. The wireless communication standards, that didn't make any changes there. Landfill facilities, non-conforming buildings and uses, administration, the zoning administrator's duties, ZBA, and amendment and violations. So there's 22 articles in here versus 37 that you had before. Material is grouped together so that you don't have to flip through 100 pages. Also, what's been done here is that the table of contents is now a link. So if I go to, oops, hold on a second. Something.
much easier.
Well, let me go to a section here. Why isn't that going? Okay, so I just clicked on that. So it takes me back to, I clicked on Article 19, so it takes me there. So what is it? Alt back.
Should make it more easier for people to read
So,
online.
so you can go to the table of contents, click on something. Right. I mean, that's not new technology, but it is to Whitewater.
Might be to some of our residents.
So this is the format now for all of it. We, every time there was an article changed, there was a new format invented. And this is, so we've got a standard format for all of this. And then all of the bookmarks. Okay, our effective date, Article 21. Click on that. And it takes you to Article 21. So again, not rocket science, but it's for a document like this, you really, really have to have that kind of stuff because you're constantly navigating through it. There's 117 pages to this and 60,000 words. So, I mean, it's huge, but, so again, all the definitions are together. I just don't want to,
On every page right there, like B or A.
Hey,
Oh.
I don't need to stop there. Oh, that's just where your.
yeah, the cursor,
That's
yeah,
your cursor, okay.
yeah. Okay, so I did add a couple of new graphics here to help with things, that wasn't in there before. They're just standard graphics you find in zoning ordinances for yard and so forth. So here's the article about the zoning map. We're establishing zoning districts. We're establishing a zoning map. It's the official zoning map of Whitewater Township. It's part of this ordinance. This map is identified by the signature of the supervisor, by test of the clerk. This got this title and it's got an effective date. And any amendments are going to be defined on that. Any questions of interpretation, go to the ZBA. There's some rules that you follow to do that as far as boundaries are concerned. They rarely come to play. So the use regulations within each zoning district, there's principal uses and there's special uses. So I've gone through and he put them into a chart, so it's much easier to find. And then also you already have a chart like this, but I've made it a little bit easier to follow with footnotes and so forth. So, the highlights in here are just things that I've highlighted because I know I need to come back to it to check something. So anyway, I'm giving you a dizzy doing all this stuff, but just to give you an idea of how this is being restructured. Everything's together now in one document. What I don't have is being able to go back and double check to make sure the linkages work and when it says see article, whatever, that's in fact where you need to go. It's not because I'm taking stuff where it says the article 37 and there is no article 37 anymore. It was moved to this, so I got to make that link work. So anyway, I think this is going to make everyone's job a whole lot easier. This is going to be for the first time. We have all of our ordinance in one place. Kind of shocking idea.
Pollution and.
Yeah.
Whether you use a computer or not.
Well, you still
Oh,
gotta figure out
yeah.
the map, but flip through the farm to-
Exactly.
So I guess I have a question. I mean, that all looks really great. Like I'd really like a copy like right now. So, because it's so much easier to read.
Well,
So the question I
can't
would
wait 'cause my
have,
stuff's all over
I'm
the
speaking
place.
here, Joe, excuse me. So, Randy, my question, and I'm sure everybody's wondering the question, and we had previously talked about, I hate to say this, possibly having to have a special meeting to review this document. And I know that's not popular right now, but, I guess that's really the question is it sounds like you're pretty doggone close.
Yep.
Such that we should be able to talk about when we would want to have a detailed review, right?
yes,
Similar to what we did with the master plan. So what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I can have this done in June
Okay,
for the June meeting.
that's the second thing you're gonna have done in June. According to my list.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know that we can hack
No,
the
I
master
realize
plan
that.
and the zoning ordinance and that.
I mean, you can give me to July if you want.
And but we have the smaller project in June, the special use is just a little one.
But you can see it's pretty close to being done. It's just a matter of
Right.
going back and double checking and just some minor formatting kind of
Well, if
things,
you
but
could have it done for us, I'm sorry, but, if you could have it done for us in June, so that we have the whole month of June to review it. And then talk about it in July, I think that'd be
I think we
I
can make our
think that-
decision at the regular meeting.
It's gonna be a big, there's gonna be a lot of
Yeah.
reading. I
Yes.
like that idea.
So you guys are thinking that review it in our July meeting, but that be able to get it.
in June.
So we have some time to kind of start reviewing it.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a great
Wow.
idea.
okay, so you're gonna have your pretty good draft and will it be in the Microsoft Word format for us or is it gonna be a
well, it
PDF?
can be if you want. I guess I can make it a PDF, obviously, and the hyperlinks convert to PDF.
I was gonna ask you
Yeah.
if the links would
Yeah.
still work,
Just to.
or maybe
put it in
both.
a PDF
Yeah,
and only keep one original in the Word. Just so that there's not a bunch of Word copies out there.
Yep, and put draft on every page so everyone knows this is.
Okay.
Can we just put draft like on the top of the page? Do we gotta put it through the whole thing? Can't we just have a watermark?
You want, whatever.
Or in a, you can put it on the,
Like the
you
existing.
can put it in the
ordinance.
footer. You can put it in the footer and I think you can make comments in the PDF, but, okay. So you're gonna have a draft copy for us in June
The June meeting.
or for the June meeting. I think that clarified,
be-
that's acceptable.
That's gonna be a huge packet. Well,
Yeah.
no, we can just post it, right, Lois? We could
It
just
might be
post it
best to
online,
post
so.
it.
We could pick them up in June and then discuss it in July, but if we had them here, you know, cause I'm gonna want them.
We could
Print out a copy myself and Mike will,
We could pick them up at the June meeting, and that would
Yeah.
give us a whole month to.
whole month
Yeah.
to look at them.
Okay,
Okay,
well, that's even better. That gives me a little more time if you pick it up
Okay.
at the June meeting.
right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That'd be
Okay.
fine.
Okay,
that'd be
like,
great.
I'll
like
do,
when we're walking out the door, go,
Yeah, there
here's
you
your
go.
hand out here.
Here's some light reading. Here's your- read the zoning ordinance.
Okay,
So
good.
keep the
That sounds
July
perfect.
meeting light.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, right. Sure, I can give you electronic one too.
sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Randy on this? Okay.
I got a question. How much do you want to tell them and how much do you want me to tell
Township board.
them? Mm-hmm.
Tell them we're getting close.
Okay.
All right, the next thing on the agenda was the planning commission bylaws. We were adding the rule of necessity and, we're gonna defer that to next month. Okay,
I have to apologize. I had some family issues this last month that took up so much of my time. I
Yeah.
didn't get time.
okay, no problem. All right. And we already took care of item 11, schedule special use permit public hearings. So that's already taken care of. We've got that figured out. The next meeting of our planning commission is, as we've discussed, June 5 at 7 PM. Actually, I have to revise that. The next meeting is May 29 at 7 PM, and that is a public hearing special meeting.
Before I leave today, I'll
Oh, thank you. That'd be great. Thanks for catching that. And so actually, I'll need to get that to Deb, right? Because you're gonna do the meeting notice. Okay. But, okay, good. We'll take care of that before you leave. All right, PC discussion and comments, keynotes to share at the regular township board meeting. Heidi, you got your notes? You can tell us what you're gonna. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. That's the second time I've done that today. Okay. Public comment. Is there anybody in the town hall for public comment? Okay, anybody online with public comment? You can raise your hand. Okay. So moving back to PC discussion and comments, keynotes to share at the next township board meeting. Sounds like by June, we're gonna have both a revised draft of the master plan and a complete draft of the zoning ordinance that is consolidated.
Yep.
I don't know. I keep looking at this. We've been talking about a zoning ordinance update, and sometimes I think that term is misleading. We're not really updating things as much as we are consolidating all of our documents.
Clarifying.
Yeah, or clarification. I think that's another word we've used.
How
So-
about I present it as clarification, not changes, and here it is. It's been put in a more usable.
I think we agreed a while ago
Yeah.
we would not use it.
Yeah,
Clarify.
not use the word change. So I think those are the
Is
keynotes
that
to
okay
share.
to put just put, we've combined everything for better clarification at this point?
What do you think, Randy?
I do have also
Idea.
comments where in the document, when you do track changes, I have comments in there if anything changed or where it came from and moved around, so people can follow what has changed.
Mhm.
So I've
So I
Keep-
think keeping it simple for them, that
As
It's-
simple as possible.
You know,
Yeah, we agreed on that when we started.
We
to
first
just
started this,
clarify.
because remember how much they
Yeah.
gave us crap
I would
about
suggest you
change.
just use the same language that they approved. When they approved us to do this, just use that same.
Mhm.
to kind of make the analogy,
Yeah, before I write my report, trust me.
I kind of make the analogy as his car was totaled and we're just straightening the frame here, you know, on this thing before
Mhm.
we
We couldn't buy a new one, so we're
Good.
just putting parts on it.
Wasn't even told.
fixing the foundation or whatever.
But I think it's very easy to just say, both the master plan and the zoning ordinance are coming along very well on schedule. Based on the ROS PC meeting, you know, we're gonna have a revised draft of the master plan in June.
I'm gonna give
And
them
we're
that
gonna be
little-
reviewing the zoning ordinance in July.
Right,
And
I'll give
that's
them
sweet
that
and simple.
Arrow thing, so they can see how it
Yes,
goes.
you can go ahead and do that. Okay, that sounds good.
And I'm also gonna give them Deb's little educational thing just for themselves.
And I'm gonna circle back to Scott and have him, ask him to come to the meeting in June.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Oh, that's the
I
other
do
thing.
have,
About the man. No, I'll put that in my report too.
Okay,
Do you want that in my report or not yet?
the zoning ordinance or
map
the
issue.
map.
I think.
The map is scheduled for review in June also,
Okay, I'll just say scheduled for
or
review.
final or review with the surveyor.
Yeah, it'll-
I have one other item for everybody. This gentleman from MDOT to talk to us about what the future's looking like for M72. He was unable to come tonight, and so I've got him on the agenda for June also.
Oh.
So he will be coming. So the only problem that I see is there's a lot, maybe some jockeying with, you know, who gets to go first. You know, because you've got basically, I've got the surveyor, the M72. What else I got here? The public hearing, which usually I'd have to look if is usually first, right? Might need some help, Lois, putting this together. So I don't mess it up. Okay, so that's a pretty full agenda. So,
We should be able to get through it, because, you know, a lot of.
but I
times
keep
we
hearing, I
carry
keep
over.
having to remind myself, the public hearing is the easier project, so it shouldn't be. And I've seen a little bit of the information such that, you know, I don't expect a public outcry or a huge room full of people concerned. I think it's a pretty nice project, so, from what I can tell. All right. So it's just, there's quite a bit on the agenda, but I wanted you to know for sure that the M72 guy is on the docket. I talked to him, I think it was, late last week, finally. Okay. Anybody have anything else? Now, Deb Graber did have in your packet was at the very end, there was yet another, checklist. So I think you've got more than enough checklists for the site plan review, special use permits. Does anybody have, or I don't know, Deb, do you have anything more you want to address the PC on regarding that material? I know you already did a pretty thorough.
You know,
job.
on the site plan review that's gonna be coming up on May 29th, I can get that information. I've got that same book in my office that Heidi was showing for a site plan evaluation, that when you're out there walking that site that's across from the casino, just things to watch for. You know, I mean, you're gonna walk it, you're gonna get a feel for it just from life.
I think we all have a copy of
Yeah.
that.
Right,
So-
so she'll just put a copy.
You
in, so
want
then
to
you
put
can
a
take
copy
with
in
you.
each packet for us?
I can do that.
As long as, yeah.
Yeah.
Then
we're
you can
just-
put your notes on it and everything.
It just it'll get your mind thinking. So when you do come into the meeting, you know, you already have your thoughts
Mhm.
on what your questions are, and just write down your questions as you're on the site. Just write down your questions and bring them to the meeting. And when they get up, and make their presentation, you'll have a chance to ask them.
Okay, and I think Randy already reminded us of this, but that, and I've noticed this in other meetings too, is that you are not required to make a decision that night if you are uncomfortable doing so. And I would just ask everybody to feel comfortable enough to say if they're uncomfortable. Don't feel like if you need more time to investigate more or to go revisit again, that's okay. We shouldn't be forced into a decision that we're not comfortable making. And it's
Okay.
okay. And sometimes one person has to raise their hand for other people to feel comfortable speaking.
I think you're right. If you have a question, be specific of what your issue is.
Mhm.
And if you don't get that answered, then you're not ready to move forward yet.
Right.
You know, but I think most of those packets are pretty complete.
Now, something to factor in, if you get an outpouring from the community and you have a lot of public commentary, you may want to get that logged and then, reschedule and schedule
Yeah.
beyond that. But you won't know that till the night of the meeting. So,
Mhm.
but just something to think about or set a time parameter on it. Just a thought.
I just thought of something. You just hit a memory that I had. I remember discussing with Rachel at one point, and she said, when we do have a large project that has notices going out, should we put on there, especially because we're giving adequate notice? Should we put on there a requested date for any written comments? Because it would give you an opportunity to see the comments. I've been in meetings before where the comments were thrown on the table the night of the meeting, like minutes prior to the meeting. I don't know how you feel about getting a stack of paper minutes before a meeting, but I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay.
So could we put like, I don't know, 4 days before the meeting? I mean, you got to be careful about weekends and stuff. It's like a Wednesday meeting, so, probably maybe written comments are due by, I don't know what your work schedule is, Deb, if you're there on. but-
In most notices, you put that day, like 5 PM, the day of the meeting. But I know that when the notices go out, people started thinking about it and they start writing things down. I can have them sent to me. In the past, I've just forwarded them on as I've gotten them, and I make sure everybody gets those comments. I share them with people. I'm very transparent that way. I don't like hoard them all until the last minute and go, oh, here's 45 commentary. I'd rather what you're coming up against when.
So
the meeting
can we
starts.
put some text in the notice that written comments requested, even a week prior to the meeting? You're giving them.
Yeah,
Plenty of
and we're giving up plenty of time because the letters will probably be in the mail Friday.
And what I mean by that is I'm just trying to get 80% of the stuff, I mean, if I can get 80% of the stuff ahead of time and read it, it's a lot more helpful to me.
When it goes in the paper, it's probably going to reach more people. Word of mouth, it's going to reach more people probably. But the number of people right now, I don't think there's even 10 letters going out for notifications because 300 feet
There's not
within
a-
that property,
was
there
gonna say
there
they're
just aren't a
big
lot. They're
parcels, right?
businesses. They're not, and there's some that may have concerns, but I don't know what the outpouring will be. I mean, it's a commercial business on 72, so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But
yeah. We
Okay.
can ask, that doesn't mean we'll get.
yeah, so
we
I
don't
guess,
ask you.
does everybody agree? I mean, what do you want to ask for? Do you want to, the meeting's on a Wednesday. Do you want to ask that written comments be submitted a week ahead? Try and get it, just say requested, written comments requested to be submitted to
Can I
the,
put that the planning commission would like any written requests, any written commentary a week prior to the meeting?
We have
Yeah.
authority to do that, don't we? So
Yeah.
let's just say this is, we're at,
Planning
we're-
commission
this is,
requests
we're
any
requiring this
written
be by a certain
comments.
date.
provided
Sounds great.
in advance of the 7
You
days
have
in
it
advance.
Go out in your packet for the.
What?
Oh, it's a good idea.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can, for adequate review. That's a
Yeah.
great,
And then you
That's
can opportunity to
excellent.
include it in your package for the agenda.
And
for the
submit it.
29th. So give me a date on
Right.
when you would like written comments in by the 21st, 22nd. 21st is the Tuesday, 22nd is Wednesday.
how about by the 21st, because that allows me on the 22nd
Hold off.
to scan them together and attach them to the agenda and post it. So it, because it's not just for us, it's for the public too. And again, that's the same thing as correspondence. It's the same thing again. I know, I feel like a broken record.
Will those go with the agenda then, the comments? Okay, good.
That
That'd
would be my
perfect.
plan.
I would
That'd
think
be
that-
Is because, I mean, I just feel like it's more transparent and
Yeah,
professional. to
That'd be
do it that way.
perfect.
But that will eliminate somebody showing up at the meeting on
No.
the 29th
bet.
and
No,
verbalizing or.
Yeah.
but it eliminate all of them
Yeah.
showing up at the
Yeah.
meeting.
But and you also might get public comments to be read that night too,
Be what?
could be read. In other words,
yeah.
somebody will email it to her at 4:30 in the afternoon. Please read this public comment this evening in your meeting.
Would it be helpful if we say, send your comments to? Who should they send their comments to?
I'm gonna have them pulled into me.
I,
I'll.
I would appreciate that if you
Yeah,
would do that.
in this situation, I will. I
Okay,
mean, there's people that will send things to you as well, but I will put in the notice.
To you.
To forward them to me, and to my email address and then
Yeah.
I'll.
that would be great.
So, you're saying out to what, 300?
300 feet. Actually, with this property, the size of it, it's almost 2 acres. I actually went 400 feet just so I could pick up a couple extra lots because I was only getting like 5.
Now, can anybody beyond that, do comments to this?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody.
But
Anybody in the community.
But we just have to notify just the.
they
So
have
go
to
within
get a
300.
letter
And
if they
maybe
live.
people from out of state. I've seen,
Right.
you know, Mr. Haggard up in Charlotte, comments on everything. Yes, let people do whatever they want. So anybody can comment.
All right. And when you write up that notice, is that going to be in our package that we pick up as well? If you're doing it up, I think it's just if we got everything in one place.
Yes, I think Bob had one kind of prepped, because he was.
Yeah, sure.
He actually had it prepped for the April meeting, and I don't know why it didn't roll forward in April, but.
I had
Anyway.
a question too for time saving, at that meeting, Linda, if the written comments are included in the agenda, then that means that we don't have to read them. You could review them. The only ones you'd have to read are the ones that are not written, right? So that'd save a lot of time, so you don't have to,
Mhm.
Read.
People still have the right to stand up and
Yes,
summarize
yes.
within 3 minutes.
but if we
Yes.
have received quite a few written, as long as they're in the agenda,
Right.
then you don't have to waste, I don't want to say waste time, but reading them.
The
to
times
everybody.
when I've seen letters written and read into the record is when they get slapped on the table the
Yes,
night of the
yes.
meeting.
And so if
Which
they're in
I
the
think
minutes,
is still a disservice to everybody. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of a explode your brain kind of experience. So it's not
Time
real
doesn't
helpful.
really don't a lot of time to do that, so the
Mhm.
ones that can get into the minutes will save all of us a lot of time.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Moving on to the right page. Okay. I don't have any additional action items for PC members. I think we know what those are. Keith, you're going to get us the Zoom link before you leave. And we talked about continuing ed. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make one quick comment.
Go ahead.
I've melted down yet another cell phone, so I would appreciate if I could get you guys' number
Oh, okay.
again. So,
Was it a bad meltdown?
Did it go?
well, no,
One
no,
water?
it still works. I just can't get any of my, I can call people and people can call me, but I can't look up any of my people in there. I can't, the screen doesn't work whatsoever. I can't, without physically knowing your number, I can't call you.
Randy here.
Here, right here. I'll
You
just
know?
pass this around.
Here,
No,
I got.
We'll
Sure.
just do one.
Should I
sheet.
just pass it around?
One
Pass it
sheet
around.
because
Is that the only comment you had?
yep, that's it.
And I will make a motion. to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Hey, 9:15. Good job. Okay.